So let's talk about planning for a hybrid cloud and some of the basics. So there are a few things that you need to consider. Number one, understanding your own requirements. Number two, defining specifics. Number three, understanding where your investment should exist. Number four, selecting a private cloud. Number five, selecting a public cloud. And then how you keep learning. So understanding the requirements means that we're going to look at the business aspect of our hybrid cloud. In other words, what kind of business problems are we looking to solve? Is this about efficiency? Is it about agility? Is it about cost reduction? Those sorts of requirements need to be understood before we approach the technology. Need to figure out the business case, look at the costs, and look at the concept of agility. Next is security. We need to understand what, how, and who is going to leverage the systems. In other words, what data is there, who's going to leverage that data, and how are they going to leverage that data? Only then can we figure out the certain security requirements and the ways in which we're going to approach hybrid cloud security. Governance, who, and policies. So who is going to access the system at what time, and what policy should be in place so we're able to control access to the system? So governance is about protecting the resources, the services from those who are leveraging the system, or those processes or those machines that are leveraging the system. So we're allowed to, in essence, create roadblocks or rules around these particular systems, which controls access to those systems. Then applications. What enabling technology are we going to leverage? DevOps and integration. So this is obviously a much broader topic, but we need to understand what the applications are going to do. In other words, how we're going to leverage DevOps or other approaches to dev test to build and deploy the applications. And then finally, the enabling technology, the platforms, the clouds, private or public, that we need to leverage to ensure that the applications are going to be successful. Let's define the specifics. So we're looking at certain ways to figure out how requirements are going to be set up. So we have, in this case, we're allocating 100% of value to certain attributes of our technical solution: storage, provisioning, management, governance, network, compute, security. So the idea is that we're going to be forced to assign a number, which is going to add up to 100%, in terms of what's more important to us. In this case, storage is more important to us. Maybe you have large databases, other things that we need to coordinate, petabyte-based systems, things like that. Provisioning is secondly most important. That means that it's very important that we're able to provision the platforms we need and the resources we need extremely quickly. And then third, management. We need to manage, monitor, and control our hybrid cloud. And then governance, network, also at the same level, and compute, also at the same level. And then security, 15%. So understanding where the investment should exist. So this is basically taking the attributes that we talked about in the previous slide and then really assigning certain weights that are going toward this. And this is what our attributes look like in a spider diagram. So in other words, storage is, of course, the most important, provisioning the second most important, security the third most important, where compute, network, governance, and management not as important to this particular scenario. So the idea is that we're understanding where our priorities lie. In other words, where we need to invest our dollars into building our solution. And so this is kind of a jumping off point or a mind exercise so we can figure out where those resources need to be allocated. Selecting a private cloud. So we select a private cloud, we need to look at the cloud software. This is basically a software purchase. So ultimately we're buying the physical hardware, we're buying the platform, and we're also buying or leveraging or using some sort of private cloud software. Typically it's going to be OpenStack, but it can be proprietary features such as Microsoft Stack or other types of private cloud environments. Virtualization, by the way, is not a private cloud. So it's not VMware to virtualize your machines. It's basically a private cloud that mimics a public cloud, meaning we can do auto provisioning, auto scaling, multi-tenancy, things like that. So it has the attributes of a cloud, but it runs on hardware that we own. So there are several choices out there. You have IBM, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, and lots of small players, lots of startups that basically do OpenStack distros. In other words, they leverage the OpenStack open source software and they provide their own distribution and they make money through support. They make money through installation, consulting, things like that. So you need to select which ones are going to be right for you. The good news is that it's typically going to be around OpenStack. That's pretty much the majority of private clouds out there. And you're going to find that there's lots of different flavors of OpenStack, but you're going to narrow in on that solution. Selecting a public cloud. So when selecting a public cloud, we're in essence looking at our requirements and matching those requirements up to the strengths and perhaps the weaknesses of the public cloud provider. In this case, we look at the requirements we created in the previous slides, and we look at storage, provisioning, management, governance, networking, compute, and security. And then we look at how that layers across the different public cloud providers, in this case, the big ones, Amazon Web Services, Microsoft, and Google. And by doing this, we can have a visual impact in terms of which ones are going to be aligned better to the particular use cases, the particular requirements we're going to leverage for the public cloud. And by doing so, chances are we're going to remove the risk of picking the wrong public cloud or the wrong public clouds in the case of a multi-cloud environment. Then keep learning. So you'll find more information about this topic in the next video unit. Keep going, guys.